Yeah, I just turned around to put the streaming on so that any listeners like Charmaine can copy you. But yes, you're coming in all right now. So go ahead and we'll get that covered over. Oh, you're catching up on Kuhela. They are at 22 and 170. And he only had about 5 knots of southeast, so make the most of it. I'll just repeat your position: 2307 and 17534 west, steering 010 magnetic at 7.5 knots, with 16 knots of east-southeast, 120 degrees, so still good direction for you, and 30% cloud cover. So I guess there's no complaints. Doing well, over. Yeah, sounds good. All right, so you'll be certainly there by the time we come back on Monday. All right, thank you for that, and good morning, everybody. This is Gulf Harbour Radio, ZMH 286. Patricia and David on a not very nice morning here. We looked at the synoptic chart yesterday. There were about 14 fronts and troughs and whatever, so I don't think that we're going to be sunbathing today. It's raining. It's 14 degrees here, 2 knots of north-northeast wind, and a steady bar of 1017. Just a dull, dismal day here at Gulf Harbour, so we're very envious of you all. The passage makers from New Zealand are doing very well. Blue Moon has actually arrived in Savu Savu. Eagle's wings will get to Anisham this afternoon. It looks like Kuhela will get there over the weekend. And Manawai, as you've probably just heard, reporting in, doing very well. So that's all good. And who else have we got? Falanga, clear down there after some overnight drizzle. Easterly 10 to 15, 1015 bar and rising 24 degrees. Sounds a little bit dull and grey up there on the Messatroy area of Malakula, the northern Malakula. Rain last night, but no wind and just overcast. And I just was scanning through. That's about it at this stage from everybody. Nothing much has come through yet. So I know that conditions, we're still suffering from that solar wind effect. So conditions are not very good radio-wise. If you're having trouble on other bands, don't be concerned. It should settle down over the weekend, but it's still a problem. That's the big spike in solar wind that came through a couple of days ago. So hopefully you will be able to copy David when he starts. Meanwhile, I will just give you a bit of news. As it is at the moment worldwide, New Zealanders can now go to South Africa visa free. Adds to the places that we can go to without going through a lot of drama, such as I'm going through at the moment to get my Russian visa. So South Africa, Australia, a few islands in the Pacific we can head off to, unless you've got an American husband, of course, and that slows you down. It looks like our Air Force base here at Whenuapai, which is sort of West Auckland, is going to have to close down, and it might be moved to Ohakea. Now, why is this news for you? Well, it is, of course, the place where the Orions head off to find boats in distress. It is, of course, an area that used to be absolutely back and beyond. Nothing was there, which was why it was put there in the first place. It is, in fact, the largest Air Force base in New Zealand. But The population has grown around it. A developer bought a whole pile of land beside it, and as they are prone to do, they've made complaints about the noise. The Orions have a tendency to arrive at night time. Oh, how terrible. And run their engines at night time. Oh, dearie me. So anyway, they are looking to move it, and that will be a big drama, of course. So it looks like people, it's rather funny that people complain about noise, because living in suburbia, you get noise all the time. I mean, there are flights coming overhead, particularly where we are, from the islands and beyond, as they lose their height or gain height to go to and fro. There's weed eaters and lawn mowers and bikes and, well, noisy bikes. I'm not talking about push bikes, etc., etc. So, but it seems that anyone who wants to do anything constructive and makes noise, that's not suitable. I'll get off my bandwagon now, and the big news of the day was that 5 Iranian ships tried to seize a British oil tanker in the Persian Gulf yesterday. It was sailing through the Gulf of Hormuz, that's international waters. Fortunately, it was being escorted by a rather large HMS frigate Montrose, and they trained their guns on the Iranians before warning them off verbally, and they turned tail and disappeared. There was also US aircraft overhead witnessing the whole thing, so it seems that
itchy
trigger fingers, yes. It seems that there is going to be a heightened concern for people moving around the Gulf over the next while. All right, going to Chernobyl now. We talked about how that was 30 years ago, but they have just finished a new dome. It's a huge dome, and it's been built right over the nuclear power plant. This Chernobyl is now in Ukraine, of course. This new dome, it's actually the largest ever structure. It spans 257 meters. 257 meters. It weighs 36,000 tons, and it's movable. It cost 1.5 billion euros, and the whole project itself actually was 2.2 billion euros. But it does secure the reactor's core, and it's 200 tons of very highly reactive material. So it was funded by about 45 countries, the EU, the World Bank, as well as Ukraine, and it will now be accessible, the area, to scientists and environmental experts and tourists, believe it or not. People actually want to go to Chernobyl. They must be stark raving bonkers. Okay, closer to home here, Infratel has purchased Vodafone New Zealand. This was announced yesterday, the same day that global roaming fees went up from Vodafone from $5 to $7 a day. Infratel paid $3.4 billion for Vodafone, so they must think it's going to earn them some money. Tell you what, you really would need your head examined if you used your phone for global roaming. It's a lot easier to get a SIM card when you're away and go from there. Okay, a big storm over in the Mexican area, and will lead to Hurricane Barry. Oh. Anyway, Louisiana has declared a state of emergency ahead of time. Forecasters are talking about it being worse surge than Katrina in 2005. It's going to produce about 12 inches of rain by Monday. And this rain is also going to affect Mississippi and Texas. I think I mentioned that a couple of days ago. Some sport now, and I have to start with the big news. England absolutely annihilated Australia by 8 wickets in the World Cup, which means that it will be an England-New Zealand final. Australia were all out for 223 in 49 overs, and England only required 2 out to get their 226. So a very good win for England. In fact, we'd much rather play England than Australia. Australia is always a bit nerve-wracking for New Zealand. So that will be an exciting final, and good that England in their home country are going to be in the final. Roger Federer and Nadal are going to meet in a semi-final at Wimbledon. Roger Federer won his 100th game at Wimbledon yesterday, so he's certainly been around a while playing at Wimbledon, and that will be a very good match. I'm not sure who I put my money on there, but anyway, Federer Nadal in the semi-final. Okay, back to, I think Federer's older. There are about 1 million undocumented people in the USA, and Mr. Trump has announced that there will be raids by ICE. I love that word, ICE. That's the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency. They are due to start on Sunday, targeting thousands of members of undocumented families. So there'll be a lot of strife over there, but he has been determined to try and nail that down. It was meant to come out a month ago, but he was trying to get some agreement with Congress to do it a little bit less violently, but they didn't come to any agreement. So that's what's going to happen starting in the weekend. Close to home, in the paper this morning, and I haven't read it in detail because it's a full page in the Herald that looks at the battle for power and influence in the Pacific Islands. It's particularly looking at China and Tonga. They've certainly invested heavily in Tonga, particularly Tonga Tapu. It is now time for money to start coming back, but they don't have any money, and other countries are a little bit reluctant to put money in there because they can't actually pay anything back. They're not allowed to pay anybody else back, and that would include, people, construction companies in New Zealand, for example. They can't pay for any materials, so needless to say, the materials are not arriving there because they have to pay China back first. So it's all a bit of a drama. The article looks at why China are investing so heavily in Tonga, and it's fairly clear that this gives them a good entry, particularly marine-wise, for their navy to come further into the South Pacific. Otherwise, they have to go through places that are not very friendly, like Japan. So they are looking at Tonga as being a good entry point to Australia and New Zealand. Slow and steady infiltration into the South Pacific. So that's going to be an interesting article to read. Needless to say, China say it is not going to be a problem. All right. Something funny I read. In Japan, car rental companies have had to change the way they charge for cars. They used to sort of do it on a mileage basis and so on. But they found that people weren't going anywhere in their cars. They were using them to charge their phones or get away from people or have a rest or eat their lunch or whatever it was. So now they are charging to hire a car by the half hour, a bit like the Lime scooter type thing. So I thought that was a bit of a chuckle. So it just goes to show you can never really keep ahead of people, can you? Messatroy are at Ratua up there at Santos, so they're on their way back again. Whistler, Niafu, 10 to 15, east-southeast there, 100% cloud cover, squally. Tonga's had a time of it. I've never known it to be so miserable for so long. 25 degrees. They went to get fuel yesterday, but there was no space on the docks. That often happens in Tonga. They either run out of fuel or there's no space or there's something rather wrong. The power's not there. But anyway, they'll no doubt get organised today. Yasawas, I haven't had a report from there for a while. 24 degrees, 1014, 95% cloud and no rain, 12 to 18 knots from the east. Actually, it looks pretty good in the Yasawas. It's quite a blue spot if that satellite picture is up to date. I couldn't get it to move before, but it's certainly it's a problem with that machine. We better have a look at that today. And local talent is at Walla Island. Can't see the sky conditions because they're still in pink. But I tell you what, our sky is absolutely 100% overcast. All right, so is there anybody else? We've got the position from Manawai already. That's about the one area of the Pacific that I can copy well. So is there any... Oh, I forgot to mention Blue Moon got to Savi, so that's about it for the ones that left. Is there anybody else with a report, please, Paul? Oh, good heavens above, David. Haven't heard from you for a long time. Shandon, go ahead.
Oh, my good. Yes, I do. Oh, no, yeah, two inches there again. And I contact my wonderful link on GPS, but I'm heading towards from Auckland. I've got about 500 miles south. We've got 12 knots, about 80% south cover.
Oh, that's good. So on the way from Auckland to Savu, southeast 12, 80% cloud cover. Just give me just do degrees, latitude and longitude, over.
I can't give you that at the moment. I should be able.
Oh, okay, no problem. But you're about halfway by the sound of it, so southeast 12. Okay, and good radio signal, so that's all good. And good to say hello again. All right, we'll catch up at the end of the weather. And we have non-stop. They're having a few weeks circumnavigating Vanua Levu. They're in Savu, and they're going to go to Hawaii. Well, it's interesting that people are going that way as well. That'll be an interesting trip. All right, I am going to pass the microphone to David. Here he is.
Yeah, it's always fun when you go against the trades. Good luck. All right, good morning. And wow, really troughs, fronts, all throughout the Tasman today. As Patricia had mentioned, the complex depression that's in the Southern Ocean, it continues with cyclonic flow all the way up to 27 south. Even the Australian Bight is cyclonic. This whole series of systems is huge. New Zealand, we're in for a wet day as well. We've got numerous frontal bands over the country. Patricia mentioned 15 of them. We were looking at them last night. Unbelievable. The high, if you'll remember the little one that was just due north of New Zealand, well, that has dissipated, and it's has been replaced by yet more troughs and fronts. It's quite an amazing synoptic picture if you take a look at it. Pull down New Zealand charts and you'll be able to see it. Now, upper air movement at 500 millibar is quite brisk, 45 to 50 knots over all of the cruising routes up above. All zonal flow for the most part, but three shortwave troughs are very evident. One is east of New Zealand, one is approaching New Zealand, and the third one is approaching Tasmania. 80 to 90 knots for these little troublemakers whipping around as they are. And the subtropical jet is in the act as well, if not to be forgotten about that. One of the branch, zonal flow at 30 south, it's roaring along at 150 to 200 knots. 150 to 200. Any of these jetliners that are going to Australia, boy, they're going to burn up some fuel there. Now, by Saturday, two of the short waves that I talked about are going to phase. Plus, the jet itself is going to form a streak just after the shortwave axis. So all of this means very substantial upflow to support this huge Tasman depression and its offspring, secondary lows and multiple fronts and troughs. So anyway, for those of you that are on passage wind-wise from 25 south to the islands, it's pretty favorable. Mostly easterlies to southeasterlies in the 15 knot range, rising to 20 or so if you're heading east to Vanuatu or Newcastle. Saturday, we're looking at about 20 knots. There'll be some 25 knots in there. And by Sunday, more of the same, but the passage to Newcastle and Vanuatu are going to see the winds back east, northeast to northeast. So that means on the nose to Newcastle. So Saturday is certainly a much better day to arrive. And I think that's doable I think most of the boats are just about there. except for the very last one we just heard. Now, up in the islands, our disturbance is still active over the Solomons, and its active trough, is running to the top of Vanuatu, covers the Santa Cruz Islands, then on to Vanuatu, then on to Rotuma, and then northern Fiji, then it nails Futuna, and then it skirts Niue and onward from there. And we've got another trough that's affecting Tuvalu and the surrounds. Now, Broken Trough lies over southern Tonga. Cloud, though, pretty much affects the whole group, but you can expect quite a few breaks overhead there, but quite a bit of cloud nevertheless. Those going to Wallis, we at least have one boat that's going to Wallis. I thought I'd take a look at that. Beautiful place, Wallis. About 12,000 people. The French do a very good job of maintaining that place. And apparently it's got a pretty good entrance. We haven't been in that one. But being French, it's marked well. Winds, though, leaving Tonga quite fresh, 20 to 25, mostly southeast, give or take in that direction. The winds lighten up a little bit on Saturday, about a quarter of the way there, but they pick up again on Sunday, 20 knots in the mean. And Monday near Wallis, we may look at easterlies, about 10 to 15. However, troughs are going to be an annoying issue, so heads up for that passage for those of you that are trying to do it. Moving on to Tonga itself, our trough, which has been a pain, certainly for the last week, is dissipating, but there will be lingering cloud, isolated showers, and so forth. Winds are still pretty fresh. In fact, Tonga Met has issued a strong wind warning for Babao, the Hapais, and Tongatapu. Winds gusting, getting up to 20, 25 knots. The mean winds are a little bit less, but the gusts are getting up there, mostly east-southeast. Saturday, we're looking at 15 to 20, gusts getting up to 25 again. Hold on to your hat, though, for Sunday. I'm looking at 20 knots east-southeast, gusting 25 to 30. So it's not one thing, it's another for Tonga. There is a fair amount of instability overhead Tonga. So while an organized trough may not be present, and it isn't, don't be surprised by cloud and isolated showers due to this instability. Now, the actuals early this morning, Babao reported southeast 6, showers and rain, scattered to broken, towering cumulus about as well, barometer 1015. Hapais, broken, towering cumulus there as well. East 15, barometer 1016. And down in Tongatapu, southeast 6, scattered broken. They had recent showers, barometer 1017. So that's Tonga. Moving on to Fiji, they're still being dogged by the same weak trough, well, all week. All week that's been there. It's still over the northern bits of the group, Rotuma as well. So needless to say, expect cloudy periods, scattered showers, especially over Vanua Levu and the northern Lao. Otherwise, well, basically fine, but cloud does come and goes. There are areas of fresh winds, though. Fiji met as a wind warning for Vatui Ra and Kundavu passages, plus all of the southern Lao waters. They're looking at southeast winds 20 to 25 and open water rough seas. For the rest of Fiji, generally southeast 15 to 20. Saturday, also southeast 15 to 20 as well, but Sunday, back to becoming fresh once more, 20 to 25, east-southeast to southeast. Now, the radar loop shows scattered showers about the group, the heaviest coming down northern Vanua Levu and eastern Viti Levu. Yeah, quite a bit of heavy rain in those two areas. Very few actual observations came in early this morning. A very lazy Friday for Fiji Met. Have to give them a little bit of a kick. Anyway, we've got Nandi reporting calm, scattered cloud. scattered cumulus mostly, barometer 1014, and the Sorry on the other side, southeast 5, rain, barometer 1016. Looking at Vanuatu now, their northern bits are seriously affected by this active trough that I mentioned from the Solomons. Satellite imagery shows cloud and rain from the Santa Cruz Islands to the banks, and that reaches south to Malapua. The rest of Vanuatu is under fairly low cloud. The mean winds southeast to about 20, some areas 25, but then again we've got wind shadow areas. Now about the same Saturday, but a bit of an ease on Sunday. Yeah, I'll give you some actuals this morning. Sola, southeast 10, scattered to broken, barometer 1013. Santo, southeast 8, scattered to broken, barometer also 1013. Fate, east southeast 5, scattered to broken, barometer 1014. And Tano was southeast 5, broken, barometer 1015. And lastly, Anisham, southeast 4, scattered, and 1016. And lastly, moving over to New Caledonia, shows broken skies on satellite imagery, a fair amount of strato Q. Most of that is coming from some instability and coming from what's left of the high, giving some southeast winds there. So today expect partly cloudy, the winds 10 to 15 out of the southeast. May get a little bit more sun later this afternoon. Saturday partly cloudy as well. Easterlies though in about the 15 knot range. On Sunday light and variable, partly cloudy, pretty good chance of showers on Sunday. The winds will turn more or less southerly in the afternoon. So wind-wise, not too bad for getting about the lagoon. Just a little bit of cloud to, well, you won't get sunburned as readily, I suppose. So that's it. That's the weekend, basically. And we'll be back with you on Monday, of course. But any questions or comments, come now. And here's the chief.
Okay, I presume you covered Falanga to Suva in amongst all that. I was busy looking at some news from Anahata. Anahata is anchored off Denarau, surrounded by 8 catamarans and 4 monohulls. It's way different from the way it used to be. But anyway, he was telling me about a catamaran that capsized. The picture shows it totally upside down off the New South Wales coast north of Sydney. A 16-year-old and her father survived, but 2 grandparents in their 70s did not. They had 25 to 30 knot westerlies with swells in the opposite direction, so not a very good system. Okay, and I've just tried to get an email using WinLink. Back to you, John, but I cannot be on your white list because it was rejected. Folks, if you do want me to respond to mail, you do need to get our email address on your white list. Anyway, I'm going to call you now, Amazing Grace, to see if I can copy you now. What I've been doing with check-ins is taking them before we start at 7:15. And then, of course, you know, I give a call before I hand the microphone over to David close to the 7:30 mark. But this conditions at the moment are not very good. Those of you who are ham radio operators, you can choose to give us a call at 2100, which is in a while. What is the time now? About an hour and a quarter. And that's on 14315. And we have operators in Australia and New Zealand, and Fiji actually, because I can hear sometimes there. And try that if you're not getting through on this particular frequency. But it is difficult at the moment, condition-wise. Okay, there was something else I was going to tell you. Oh, that's right, Manawai. We are not on in the weekend, and it would be good if you contacted, I think you probably are, contacting Maritime Radio in the evening, so that Charmaine can get an update from them over the weekend. So don't forget to do that over the weekend. And that applies to anybody, of course, on passage. We always did ourselves contacted Maritime. Keep up to date. They knew where we were. Okay, let's try for Amazing Grace first, and then I'm going to go back to Shandon, and then I will ask for anything else. Amazing Grace, Gulf Harbour. They're not on the radio. How about Shandon?
Yeah, my position is 2 degrees, 7 south, 1 west.
Okay, across the line, 2427 and 17917 west, and I'll add that to your southeast 12 and 80% cloud cover. And have you got an ETA, Savu, over?
Always
Okay, you can let me know on Monday. All right, thank you for that. Who else have we got? That's about it as far as I know. Is there anybody wanting to make a contact? Please call. Tuela, Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, you want to just want to check the most of my life. Did you see again 16 knots of breeze at the bottom?
Manawai had 16 knots of breeze from 120, so things are changing between him and you, over.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you better make tracks before it gets too much to the northeast. I didn't listen carefully, but it is turning.
What's ETA?
Yeah, you should be in there. Late Saturday or Sunday, over.
I'll be right here tomorrow morning.
Oh, okay. Well, you're doing okay then. So
That's not unusual.
no problem getting to Anisham. Yeah, and that I got an interesting report from Eagle's Wings when they were getting their permit to go in there. At first, of course, it was denied, and then they said, well, there is a ship coming in, and the people will be there. So then they said, well, the ship had pre-organised things, and they said, well, how about we pre-organise things? Anyway, they got a permit at the end. It looks like that. Send in your request and go anyway, by the look of it. But, yep, you'll be there and able to check in quite quickly.
Winds will pick up to about
David
15.
is just telling me. Hang on, I'll pass the mic.
Yeah, it's easier this way. Yeah, you've got light air to the south. I know you want some more for sure, but you will get it. You get about the latitude of the Loyalties down in Mary. You get to that latitude, the wind should pick up then to about 15 and take you all the way into Anisham. That's what I'm looking at. Those are the conditions today. And hang on, I'm trying to move my cursor. Yeah, I'm looking at later today, virtually about the same thing, 10, 12 knots roughly where you are, and then again getting up closer, it does start to pick up a little bit. But you'll be in tomorrow, I guess. And same thing, about 15 knots in the mean, getting right up there to Anisham. So even a little bit more wind where you are now on Saturday, but of course you'll be further north. What is your wind right now?
That's
Patricia's got it here. What is your wind over?
Southeast 5. Yep, David was just checking your wind, southeast 5. I've written down here, so or got here. So yep, interesting. And Eagle's Wings have got east northeast to east southeast. They're at 20 degrees. So yep, things are starting to change. Okay, all right, but you're going to be in there, so that's going to be good, and there'll be quite a bit of a gathering there. Mesaluna, Katie, or brain's gone here. Jeff, if you could just tell Amazing Grace that I did try to send an email, but I'm not on their whitelist for WinLink, and I have tried to call them and no response. So never mind, they'll have to just get the information from you. Is there anybody else? And about time you called in, and very good strong signal it is too. I always like to get an email off for the weekend, Alan. All well, over?
Yeah, Roger, yeah, all good here, clear skies, good little wind, so I think it's an average, but, yeah, another 2 or 3 days here and there moving, north.
Okay, and I got a good explanation of the star business from Denise. That helped clear things up there. So it was quite a good chuckle on her email. Okay, so you'll be there for another 2 to 3 days and then heading north. Okay, and very good signal. It's really strange this year. We're getting much better signals to the west than we are to the east. Okay, oh well, little wind, so you'll be good and safe for the weekend. And who knows, you just might find the magical shell before you go, over.
The other place as well, and of course, is that Newcow.
Yes, indeed. All right. So, in terms of hearing us, how does it change from when we start to when we finish? Over.
Pretty good, although some mornings a bit light in the beginning and sometimes a little light in the middle, which is odd, but at the end it's always quite stronger.
Oh, that's good. All right. Well, have a good weekend, and I shall pass on the news, and we will catch you on Monday. Okay. Clear with Quintessa. Was there anybody else? I think there is somebody there, but I'm not copying them. If I could get a relay, that would be good. At least I'd know where you were. No, nothing heard that time. So, all right, folks, you know our email address if you need anything. ghradio@extra.co.nz. If you call on WinLink, you will get an email back from Chameleon House @extra.co.nz. So that's a bit complicated, I know. Anyway, have a good weekend, everyone. It looks like it's not going to be all that great here. We've got quite a bit planned, actually, which is a bit of a pain if it's going to rain, but that's what you deal with in winter time. Cheers, everybody. Have a good weekend, and we'll be back on Monday. The frequency is yours. We'll just check. Goodness. Yep, that's it.